Namaskar, a warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Renu Kataria and with me is R.S. Raghu bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India is now moving beyond probability and potential for a bigger purpose of global welfare. India and Italy review full spectrum of bilateral relations today, agree to explore partnerships in gas transportation and green hydrogen. India raises concerns at UN Security Council over food and energy security challenges emanating from Russia-Ukraine conflict. New Delhi rejects WHO's inflated data on COVID mortality estimates for India, says methodology of data collection highly questionable. And Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal says record export and GST collection are reflection of revival of Indian economy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today said that everyone in the world feels that India is moving forward with all its potential and performing with the purpose of global welfare too. He added that the Indian vision is very clear and Atmanirbhar Bharat is our future course and also our goal. He was addressing virtually the inaugural ceremony of Jito Connect, a global summit organized by Jain International Trade Organization, Jito, in Pune. The Prime Minister said that the world is looking up at India with a lot of expectations and confidence in various areas, be it global peace, prosperity, or ways to find solutions for global challenges. He said that there may be areas of special expertise, areas of concern, or there may even be differences of opinion, but yet the prosperity of New India connects everyone. He said that the theme of this summit, Together Towards Tomorrow, is very much meaningful in today's scenario. It means that during the Azadi Ka Amrit Kal, Sabka Prayas is the key for rapid development. While appreciating the use of Jain community and Jito, Mr. Modi appealed them to be vocal for local. He said this is the right platform to show faith on local manufacturers and skilled workers and empower them with manufacturing essential products required in our day-to-day life.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held bilateral talks with visiting Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio in New Delhi today. They reviewed the full spectrum of bilateral relations, including the progress in implementation of the 2020-2024 action plan adopted at the virtual summit in November 2020. They also discussed the implementation of the India-Italy Strategic Partnership on Energy Transition announced last year during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Italy. They agreed to explore partnerships in areas such as gas transportation, green hydrogen, biofuels, and energy storage. In addition, they agreed to jointly organize an India-Italy Tech Summit on Energy Transition and Circular Economy to be held in Delhi on 17th of November. In the context of recent geopolitical developments, they also exchanged views on regional and global issues of mutual interest, including Ukraine, Afghanistan, and Indo-Pacific and cooperation in multilateral forum, including G20. During his visit, Mr. Di Maio also had a meeting with Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal and co-chaired a business roundtable which saw participation of top business leaders, particularly in the energy, defense, sustainable mobility and infrastructure sectors. He visited Bengaluru yesterday, where he met Chief Minister of Karnataka Basavaraj Bommai and inaugurated the premises of the new Consulate General of the Italian Republic. He also visited the Indian Space Research Organization and the Indian Institute of Science along with scientists of Italian Space Agency and Elettra Synchrotron Trieste.
India and Qatar held fruitful and productive discussions on a wide range of issues related to labor and manpower mobility. The two-day 7th Joint Working Group meeting between India and Qatar on labor and manpower development was held in New Delhi on the 4th and 5th of this month. The Indian side welcomed the progressive labor reform measures adopted by Qatar over the past years. The Qatari side appreciated the contribution of the Indian migrant workforce in the socio-economic development and infrastructure building in Qatar. Qatari side reiterated their commitment towards the protection and promotion of labor rights. Both sides agreed to adopt integrated approach to promote the welfare and well-being of workers, including streamlining recruitment and to enhance cooperation for time-bound resolution of issues of mutual concern. They agreed to work towards integrating the recruitment portals.
India has highlighted the food and energy security challenges emanating from the Ukraine conflict, saying the conflict is having a destabilizing effect with broader regional and global implications. Speaking at the UN Security Council meeting on Ukraine, India's permanent representative to UN P.S. Tirumurthy said the oil prices are skyrocketing, there is a shortage of food grains and fertilizers, and this has had a disproportionate impact on the global south and developing countries. He said the food security challenges emanating from the conflict requires us to respond by going beyond constraints that bind us presently. Mr. Tirumurthy added that energy security is equally a serious concern and needs to be addressed through cooperative efforts. He said New Delhi has strongly condemned the killing of civilians in Bucha and supported the call for an independent investigation. He added that India remains on the side of peace and believes that there will be no winning side in this conflict and diplomacy will be a lasting casualty. The permanent representative to the UN said New Delhi has been sending humanitarian supplies to Ukraine, which include medicines and essential relief materials. He expressed hope that the international community will continue to respond positively to evolving humanitarian requirements.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a news commentary on India-Europe Connect gathering pace. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's three-nation visit to Europe, a continent reeling under various pressures from the war in Ukraine, has concluded with a wide array of achievement across the board. Reciprocating a slew of high-profile visits lately from Europe, Prime Minister Modi's first foreign visit in 2022 reiterated that India has indeed emerged as an important partner in securing European interests in the Indo-Pacific, a theme that was common in deliberations with all the heads of states that the Prime Minister met. While the situation in Ukraine was discussed in every meeting as well, India's position remained firmly on the side of neutrality between the warring sides, with calls for an immediate end to hostilities and a return to negotiations and dialogue. Mr. Modi enthusiastically reached out to the Indian diaspora in all the three countries. They seemed exhilarated with his ability to stir national pride in them. It is indeed a triumph of India's confident diplomacy that once criticized by Europe for not taking sides in the Ukrainian war, India is now seen not only as a friend of both sides, but also an important global actor, part of the Quad, and an invitee to the G7 that the world is keen on befriending. The Prime Minister's visit to the three European countries focused on tapping the potential in bilateral trade with Europe's economic powerhouse Germany and with the Nordic states by cooperating on blue economy, green energy initiatives and inviting more investments from these countries into India. Building on the sixth meeting of the Indo-German Intergovernmental Consultation Mechanism, the joint statement announced Indo-German cooperation under key areas of green strategic partnership. Among other joint projects, Chancellor Scholz committed a €10 billion German fund to be disbursed by 2030 to support green projects in India. The German announcement set the theme for Prime Minister Modi's visit to Denmark, where he was not only received very well, but also attended the second India-Nordic countries summit with Denmark, Sweden, Iceland, Finland and Norway, Nordic 5, to push for a greater role for India in the Arctic. Nordic 5's support to India's engagement in the Arctic is a win-win strategy for them to balance China's rising influence in the region and for us to make sustained engagement into it, according to our recently published Arctic policy that underlies our approach and commitment to a region of vital importance for the future of humanity. Apart from seeking investments in green energy, cooperation was also discussed in the maritime sector with a focus on sustainable development. Nordic countries were invited to invest in the blue economy sector, especially in India's Sagarmala project. Prime Minister Modi's last leg of visit was in France.
With President Emmanuel Macron re-elected, Mr. Modi capitalized on continuity in French foreign policy towards the Indo-Pacific and French role in the EU Council to facilitate India-EU strategic partnership. With France being a major supplier of India's defense equipment, the Indian Prime Minister pushed for India to be made more self-reliant and an equal partner in defense cooperation by technology transfers and investments in joint projects in tune with the recent defense acquisition procedure reforms. In the joint statement, the two sides condemned the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine, but only France, understandably, condemned Russian forces. Counter-terrorism, digital technology and cybersecurity also featured prominently in the discussions. This is a time when France is looking to work with India in third countries in the Western Indian Ocean and is also encouraging European navies to establish a coordinated maritime presence in Northwest Indian Ocean. This initiative could also envisage joint exercises with India in the region. What is important to note is that France seems willing to work with Quad on a case-by-case basis despite its damaged ties with Australia and reservations about AUKUS, a trilateral security pact involving Australia, UK and US. It is this trust deficit among the Western powers that India has to bridge carefully, because Europe's Indo-Pacific outreach depends on the coordination and cooperation of the UK and France, who have similar strategic aspirations in the region. India needs to convince the relevant players to underplay divergences and optimize the potential of joint cooperation in the Indo-Pacific that will benefit like-minded partners and allies alike. Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy was perceived as being pro-US at the cost of engagement with other partners. Proving such narratives wrong, India's balancing act with Russia and the US, along with deepening cooperation with the UK and Europe, has shown a well-rounded off, resilient and a confident worldview that prioritizes her own national interests without bowing to bloc pressures. In a fast-changing geopolitical order, India navigates the complex terrain of mapping convergences with like-minded countries with calibrated pragmatism.
This is All India Radio, giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Director General of Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, Dr. Balram Bhargava, today questioned WHO's excess COVID mortality estimates for India. Talking to media, Dr. Bhargava said, when COVID deaths were occurring, no one had the definition of deaths, and even WHO did not have one. He said to define that ICMR analyzed all the data and came to the conclusion that 95% of the deaths that occurred after testing positive for COVID-19 were occurring in the first 4 weeks, so a cutoff of 30 days was laid for the definition of death. The ICMR DG said if one gets positive today and dies after 2 weeks, that can be labelled as COVID death, but if someone dies after 2 months or 6 months, can it be called COVID death? Dr. Bhargava said we have such large amounts of data. The data of more than 97 to 98% of 1.3 billion who have been vaccinated with the first dose, and nearly 190 crores vaccine doses have been used. So all that is systematically collected. Once we have this systematic data, we do not need to rely on modelling, extrapolations and taking press reports and utilizing them for putting into a modelling exercise. Centre has strongly objected to the use of mathematical models by WHO for projecting excess mortality estimates concerning coronavirus and has said that authentic data is available. Referring to the excess mortality estimates of WHO, the Health Ministry said in a statement that the validity and robustness of the models used and methodology of data collection are highly questionable.
Union Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways Sarbananda Sonowal today informed that 802 projects worth 5,50,000 crore rupees under the Sagarmala program are targeted to be executed by 2035. The minister added that 202 projects worth over 99,000 crore rupees have been completed. National Sagarmala Apex Committee today reviewed the progress of Sagarmala program and deliberated on the various agenda in New Delhi. Several union ministers, Chief Minister of Goa and ministers from coastal states attended the meeting.
India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said that record export and GST collection are a reflection of the revival of Indian economy. He said the country's overall exports are at an all-time high of $675 billion with a record GST collection of 1,68,000 crore rupees in the last month. He was virtually addressing the inaugural session of Indian Merchants Chamber India Calling Conference in New Delhi today. The minister said export trends indicate that the country is gradually moving towards becoming a high-class, high-technology manufacturing economy. Mr. Goyal said the government is working to capitalize on demographic dividend to have investment-driven export-led growth. He said reduction in corporate tax rates, improving ease of doing business, FDI policy reforms, reduction in compliance burden, Make in India are some of the initiatives the centre has taken to encourage investments that are showing results.
The government of Bangladesh will organize several programs across the country to celebrate the 161st birth anniversary of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore on the 8th of May. The main event will be held at the Rabindra Kuthibara in Shilaidaha of Kumarkhali Upazila of Kushtia district. Parliament Speaker Shirin Sharmin Chaudhary will be the chief guest on the occasion. The decision was taken at the meeting of the National Committee chaired by the State Minister for Culture K.M. Khalid in Dhaka today. Bangladesh Shilp Kala Academy will organize a 3-day-long cultural program and a month-long exhibition of Tagore's painting. A documentary on the poet will also be shown. The birth anniversary will be celebrated under the auspices of Ministry of Culture and Local Administration at Shilaidaha in Kushtia, Shahjadpur in Sirajganj, Patisar in Naogaon, and Dakshin Dihi and Pitha Boge in Khulna. On this occasion, the local administration will organize various programs including Rabindra Mela, discussion on Rabindra cultural programs. The theme of this year's celebration of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore birth anniversary has been kept as Crisis of Humanity and Rabindranath. The Ministry of Culture and Bangla Academy will print memorabilia and posters on the occasion of the poet's birth anniversary.
Union Home Minister Amit Shah has said that UNESCO's recognition of Durga Puja is a matter of pride not only for Bengal but for the entire country. Speaking at a function organized by the Union Ministry of Culture to commemorate the recognition of Durga Puja at the Victoria Memorial this evening, Mr. Shah said, "Our country's culture is always appreciated by the whole world." Governor Jagdeep Dhankar, Union Minister of State Nishit Pramanik, BJP State President Sukant Majumdar and others were present on the occasion.
In Israel, at least 3 people were killed and several others were injured in a suspected terror attack in Eilat city yesterday when the country was celebrating its Independence Day. According to the Times of Israel, at least one of the injured is said to be in a critical condition and it is estimated that more than 9 are hurt in the incident. Local reports say that the attack was carried out by 2 men, one wielding an axe and another a gun. The assault took place in 2 different locations. The attack occurred in the evening hours when many were spending their time with families outdoors to celebrate the country's 74th anniversary. According to I-24 news channel, Hamas, a Palestinian Sunni Islamic fundamentalist militant group, has claimed responsibility for the attack. The attack in Eilat comes as tensions have been high in Israel after a wave of deadly attacks has killed close to 20 Israelis.
In Japan, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida yesterday said that it would use nuclear reactors to help reduce dependence on Russian energy. He said Japan would address the vulnerability of our own energy self-sufficiency by broadening where it buys energy from, promoting renewables and using nuclear power to diversify its sources of generation. Mr. Kishida further said Japan will utilize nuclear reactors with safety assurances to contribute to worldwide reduction of dependence on Russian energy. He said $1.16 trillion investment would be raised in the next decade to meet its goal of carbon neutrality by 2050 and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 46% by 2030. Japan has become more reliant on Russian gas since shutting down nuclear reactors after the 2011 Fukushima disaster, in which an earthquake and tsunami triggered a meltdown devastating its northeastern region. More than a decade after the March 2011, nuclear power remains a difficult issue in Japan, where only a handful of its 30-odd plants are currently operating.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reviewed the situation relating to heat wave management and monsoon preparedness. During a meeting Indian Meteorological Department and National Disaster Management Authority briefed about the persistence of high temperatures in March to May across the country. States and union territories have been advised to prepare heat action plans as a standard response at the state, district and city levels. Regarding southwest monsoon preparedness, all states have been advised to prepare flood preparedness plans and undertake appropriate preparedness measures. National Disaster Response Force NDRF has been advised to develop its deployment plan in flood-affected states. The Prime Minister emphasized on the need to take all measures to avoid deaths due to heat wave or fire incident and added that the response time towards any such incident should be minimal. He stressed that in view of the rising temperatures, regular hospital fire safety audits needed to be done. Mr. Modi said there is a need to substantially reduce the vulnerability of forests across the diverse forest ecosystem in the country. Mr. Modi directed that in view of upcoming monsoons, arrangements for monitoring the quality of drinking water need to be ensured to avoid contamination and resultant spread of waterborne diseases. It was discussed in the meeting about the need for effective coordination between the central and state agencies to ensure preparedness of all systems for any incidents in the wake of heat wave and upcoming monsoons. The meeting was attended by the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister's Advisor to the Prime Minister, Cabinet Secretary, Secretaries in the Ministries of Home, Health, Jal Shakti, Member of NDMA, Director Generals of National Disaster Management Authority IMD and NDRF.
The low-pressure area over the Bay of Bengal is likely to intensify into a depression by tomorrow and further into a cyclonic storm by Sunday. According to information by the Bhubaneswar-based Meteorological Centre, it is likely to reach the west-central Bay of Bengal off North Andhra Odisha coast by the 10th of May. Accordingly, the state administration is fully geared up to meet any eventuality arising out of the possible cyclone. However, neither the intensity nor the exact date or landfall point have yet been ascertained by the Meteorological Department.
Bangladesh State Minister for Disaster Management and Relief Dr. M. Enamur Rahman has said that the country is prepared to face the cyclone Ashani in case it hits the Bangladesh coast. Speaking to the media in Dhaka yesterday, Dr. Rahman said that more than 14,000 shelters were prepared for people during the cyclone Amphan, which can house over 2.4 million people. The minister said that the volunteers of the Cyclone Preparedness Program have been informed and that they are working in the coastal areas. The government machinery is alert and action will be taken as the situation develops.
And now a report from the business world.
Sensex tumbled by 867 points, a 1.56% to finish at 54,836, while Nifty fell by 271 points, a 1.63% to end at 16,411. In the global equity markets, global stock indices today witnessed big losses as markets anticipated more U.S. interest rate rises. Asian stocks also fell on worries about the hit to growth from China's zero-COVID policy. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index shed 3.8% and China Shanghai Composite Index tumbled 2.2%. Singapore Straits Times Index ended 1.6% down and South Korea's Kospi slipped 1.2%. Japan's Nikkei 225 managed to gain 0.7%. European share markets were also down in intraday trade. Oil prices rose for a third session in a row. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading around $112.50 per barrel. And in the foreign exchange market, the rupee weakened by 66 paise against the US dollar. The domestic currency closed at 76 rupees and 92 paise against the American unit. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, All India Radio.
3 terrorists have been gunned down by security forces in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. A gunfight had erupted after the joint team of security forces were fired upon by terrorists who had laid a cordon and search operation KSO at Shrishchand Top in Pahalgam forest area of South Kashmir's Anantnag district. One of the slain terrorists is identified as Ashraf Maulvi, associated with the proscribed Hizbul Mujahideen terror outfit. The identity of the other 2 killed terrorists is being ascertained. Operation in the area was on till reports last came in. Meanwhile, security forces in Baramulla have arrested a hybrid terrorist and a terrorist associate of Lashkar-e-Toiba. The arrested duo have been identified as Ashik Hussain Lone and Uzair Amin of Baramulla. During their personal search, incriminating materials, arms and ammunition were recovered from their possession. A case under relevant sections has been registered against them. Further investigation is in progress.
Finance Ministry today released the second monthly installment of post-devolution revenue deficit grant of over 7,000 crore rupees to 14 states. With this release, the total amount released to the states has gone up to 14,366 crore rupees. Grant has been released as per the recommendations of the 15th Finance Commission. The states which have been recommended grant by the 15th Finance Commission are Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, Kerala, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Punjab, Rajasthan, Sikkim, Tripura, Uttarakhand and West Bengal. The 15th Finance Commission has recommended a total post-devolution revenue deficit grant of 86,201 crore rupees to 14 states for this financial year. The recommended grant will be released by the Department of Expenditure to the states in 12 equated monthly installments. In tennis, Rafael Nadal beat Belgian David Goffin 6-3, 5-7, 7-6 and moved into the men's single Madrid Open quarterfinals in Spain. Nadal will play either his compatriot Carlos Alcaraz or Briton Cameron Norrie in the next run at Manolo Santana today. Earlier, defending champion Alexander Zverev reached the fifth consecutive quarterfinal at the Madrid Open at Lorenzo Musetti was forced to retire from the pair's third round clash at the ATP Masters 1000 event yesterday. Zverev's opponent in his 23rd Masters 1000 quarterfinal will be 8th seeded Felix Auger-Aliassime or 10th seed Jannik Sinner. World number 1 and 3-time champion Novak Djokovic will face 12th-seeded Hubert Hurkacz in the quarterfinals today.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Now let's take a look at the press reports on China. Reuters reports the Omicron variant of the SARS-CoV-2 virus is intrinsically as severe as previous variants, according to a preprint version of a large US study that counters assumptions in other studies that it was more transmissible but less severe.
New York Times writes China's lockdowns leave millions out of work. Migrant workers and recent college graduates have been hit hardest by shuttered factories, closed construction sites, and an anemic job market.
South China Morning Post writes China has increased its crackdown on modern human rights. Voices and even critical tweets are now landing people in prison.
AFP reports the U.S. National Security Council slammed the assertion that the United States was helping Ukraine kill Russian generals as irresponsible.
State broadcaster CCTV reports on Friday that 53 people died when a housing block collapsed in the Chinese city of Changsha last week after days of rescue efforts.
CNN writes China's gigantic services sector just contracted at the second sharpest pace on record as COVID lockdowns hit businesses hard.
Now let's have a look at the press reports on Nepal. The Kathmandu Post writes Nepal and the United States have signed a $659 million new development objective agreement. The Himalayan Times writes Home Minister Balkrishna Khand has directed security agencies to help organize the May 13 local election in a fair and impartial way.
Now let's have a look at the press reports on Pakistan. Dawn report Pakistan Information Minister Mariam Aurangzeb announces an independent inquiry commission for the alleged foreign conspiracy that former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been claiming was behind the ouster of his government.
The Geo News writes Federal Minister for Planning, Development and Special Initiatives Ehsan Iqbal decides to hold a National Curriculum Summit to review the new curriculum.
The Daily Times reports Pakistan calls upon the United Nations to take steps to counter the growing phenomena of Islamophobia emerging from hate speech, discrimination and violence against Muslims.
The Express Tribune writes former Prime Minister Imran Khan on Thursday said that he wanted to pursue an independent foreign policy whether or not someone liked it, nearly 3 weeks after he was ousted from power after a no trust vote by the parliament. Now a quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India is now moving beyond probability and potential for a bigger purpose of global welfare. India and Italy review full spectrum of bilateral relations today, agree to explore partnerships in gas transportation and green hydrogen. India raises concerns at UN Security Council over food and energy security challenges emanating from Russia-Ukraine conflict. New Delhi rejects WHO's inflated data on COVID mortality estimates for India, says methodology of data collection highly questionable. And Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal says record export and GST collection are reflection of revival of Indian economy.
And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Italy.
With that, we end this bulletin. We will be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.